All right. All right. God bless you. Welcome to Let's Cross Together podcast with yours truly, the mental health coach, Fernando Cottrell. I'm excited about being here once again. I trust that everyone is doing well on this Saturday afternoon. Um, it's raining over here. Well, actually, it was raining for a little while. Um, Tuned down a little bit, but I went outside to check out the rain. I love this kind of weather. Kind of puts you in the mind to just kind of relax and sit back and just reflect and just kind of enjoy the day. And um, that's kind of like where I am today. But thank you once again for tuning in to the Let's Cross Together. Let's Cross Together is an extension of Bridge Crosser Solutions, Christian Counseling and Life Coaching Center, where we are dedicated to the ministry of mental health. A couple weeks ago, I shared part of the story of my wife and I. I don't know, many of you know, many of you don't, but we had COVID, and I tell you that was a situation. you know, I, when COVID first came out, people were saying it's not real and it's this and don't believe it. You don't need this and don't do that. But um, and every once in a while, that kind of thought would come in my mind, very very tiny, very minute. But I remember thinking, you know what? People are dying. How can people say this is not real when the numbers are escalating? And then over a period of time, I bypassed it. Didn't, was around people that had it but never tested positive. But until about a month ago, my wife and I tested positive. We're okay now. But then, I began to see, wow, this thing is for real. So it opened up my eyes to just understand the seriousness of situations. Sometimes we think our faith, we use faith to kind of act in a not in a naive manner. Faith is not an excuse to use wisdom or to not use wisdom. Faith in God or faith towards believing uh, doesn't mean we don't exercise good judgment. We don't have common sense, and then we just avoid life in the name of faith. So I just wanted to share a little bit of our journey. My wife and I, like I said, uh, for 12, what 30 days, we were in the house. We had highs and lows, but it was during that time though that I had gotten a lot of things accomplished. And sometimes the accomplishments are not necessarily things uh, that others can see. What I accomplished for myself, some of the accomplishment that it was for me, being able to rest, being able to sit still, being able to me and my wife and I spent more time together because we were in the situation where we could. And so some of the lessons, all the lessons I learned, I want to take and move forward with them. And I want to encourage you because uh, encourage all of us because when we learn the lesson, it's just not for that. It's just not a lesson that needs to be learned for that moment. Sometimes we learn the lesson until the situation is over. You ever been through a hard place, a hard situation, and you learned until it was over? Like sometimes what we call learning is we have no other option, so we have to sit still. So we say we think we've learned because we didn't maneuver or we can't move anywhere, so we have to sit still. So we say, I learned my lesson, but we really don't have options right now. But then when that situation is over, the lesson that we say we learned, we go right back to the opposite. So I want to share some of the things that I actually learned. This is part two because we want to grow, we want to be better, we want to experience uh, mental health, positive mental health. We want to flourish in our lives. So, but you got to learn things. You got to understand situations happen, and then you got to just see how even in a negative place, even in a negative situation, how can uh, what can I learn through this? What's available? What's a takeaway from this lesson? And I tell you, having COVID was a situation where I had to. I had to sit still. I had to sit still. I had to wait. My interest for a lot of things were gone. As a counselor, as a pastor, as a minister, a founder of Bridge Process Solutions, for 30 days I did absolutely nothing towards my business, towards answering phone calls, towards helping anybody, towards counseling, towards doing a lot of things. And I thought, I said, man, I don't even have an interest. I remember I tried to book some clients and tried to see this person and tried to do some telephone conferences or telehealth counseling or coaching. And I couldn't even do that. So for 30 days, I was able to sit still and not do anything. And sometimes we have to learn how sometimes doing nothing is faith, because it takes faith to sit still, because everything in you wants to do everything beyond really what may not be wise right now. So I was able to sit still for 30 days, 30 days of not answering calls, 30 days of just maybe texting somebody, say, I can't talk, I'm not feeling well. And I was able to ride this out. And I tell you, um, I'm refreshed. My mind is refreshed. So many have lost their lives during this time, and my heart goes out to them. I had underlying conditions as well as many other thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, but for whatever reason, you know, God has brought me through this, even after having COVID and having underlying issues, and so I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So one of the things I just want to encourage many of you. Sometimes we don't think, we don't value our mental health, but sometimes before we enter into situations where we have to go down, God will talk to you. God will speak to you about things. Confirmations can come from different places, and sometimes we're not listening, and then we only listen when our body talks. But before our body talks, our mind starts talking to us. Our mind starts ministering us, and we start thinking about things we should do. You ever been just go through your day or your week? You know what? I need to be doing this. You know what? I need to go to the gym. You know what? I need to walk more. You know what? I need to be doing this. We all know our mind talks to us all the time. Uh, our mind speaks to us about a lot of things, but we ignore it. But we can't ignore it when we actually get sick, because now what we have ignored now speaks. So these past 30 days, I've been able to just sit still and listen to my mind, and you know what? I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed not having a lot of things to do. And I want to encourage some of us that always have to be busy, that always have to be involved and engaged in something, engaged in things. There are times where you're going to have to settle down. And many times we can think busyness means productive, being productive. Sometimes we're just busy because we're running from something. Sometimes being busy can help you escape into another world that you don't have to deal with your present reality. So sometimes this busyness that we get into is not necessarily production work or being productive. It's just busyness. It's just things we're doing. But if we look back, it didn't really have any weight or purpose attached to it. And we're not careful, we can hide out with in busyness, mistaking it as I was productive. So these past 30 days, my wife and I were able to just sit still. My wife likes to do a lot. She likes to, she's very, she gets things done, but this also put her in a position where she couldn't really do a lot of things. So we both just sitting still for 30 days. And then when I got up and felt like I wanted to do more, okay, I'm ready to go out, I got really tired out of nowhere. I said, oh my God, maybe I'm doing too much. And so even in that, the lesson was, don't always think because there is something to do that you should be doing it. And that was a really good lesson for me, because sometimes as a person that's into, I'm a solution oriented person. I see things and I'm looking for the solutions. But sometimes what I learned through this time of being in the COVID, you know, some solutions is not for me to solve. Some solutions are not for me to be engaged in. Some things are just is because for the last, like I said, 30 days I did absolutely nothing, and things life went on without me. So I want to encourage somebody with that. Life can go on without you. It, we don't have to engage in every situation. We don't have to solve every problem. We don't have to ensure that everybody has something. We have to make, first of all, ensure that we have. We have to ensure that we are healthy. We have to ensure that we're okay. And we have to be careful. This is a lesson I've learned years ago, but I'm still learning it. We have to be careful that we're not driven versus being led. As a believer, as a person that, as a pastor, and talking with people a lot of times, they can mistake their impulses or their need to be accepted or their need to be along, and then that thing to belong, and then next thing you know, that void that they have in their heart is driving them, and they think they're being led. But so how to understand led versus being driven? Satan wants to drive us. He wants to oppress us into doing things, but the Holy Spirit just leads and guides us. He leads and guides us into all truth. But we want to be led, not driven. I want to have a life that's led by God versus being driven. Even sometimes when we're thinking about purpose, we let purpose drive us, and then sometimes we in the name of being driven, we can kind of not see the red flags, because being driven sometimes it has a tunnel focus, and we won't necessarily look to the left or the right. We'll just be straight ahead. But being led by the Spirit, being led by God through things and by the Word, we just won't have tunnel vision. We have a tunnel vision, but we also can see flashing lights on the side of us saying, "Hey, don't do this and be careful of that." So these past 30 days, that's one of the things that came to me. Uh, you can't be the solution to all things. And just because there are needs, it doesn't mean you're going to meet them. And as I sat back the past 30 days with COVID, what I realized after going through all of this, and I'm not going to lie, I had some moments where it was just painful in your body, because what this did, like they said, it attaches itself or attacks weak areas in your body, or in your body, and it attaches itself to it and begins to gnaw at that area. So I experienced that, but I knew, I just trusted God. We waited, we prayed through it, believed through it, and here we are. Uh, and I want to just be able to share these, just share nuggets, that when you're facing things in your life, things that come to throw a monkey wrench, it doesn't mean God doesn't love you. Doesn't mean you're not blessed. It doesn't mean you're not favored. And what Satan wants to do in the minds of people. See, this is why it's important to understand how, having, mental health, while understanding mental health, how God wants our minds and souls to prosper. Because if you don't have a prospering mind, you'll think difficulty is a sign of judgment. You will mistake, uh, a temporary situation as God doesn't love you, or you're paying for your sins, or you've been a bad little boy or a bad little girl. No, it doesn't mean that. So when monkey wrenches come, and your dreams or your plans go, it seem like they gotta make a detour or maybe turn a different way, or it doesn't mean anything. Is that you got to turn a different way. Turning a different way is not saying it's not going to happen. Turning a different way, or maneuvering in a particular area, does not mean what God said to you is not going to happen. So when I had COVID, when we sat still for 30 days on the bed and walked around when we could, people couldn't come to the house, and thank God for those who were blessed and ordered us stuff, because we couldn't leave the house. And I, people don't really know this part, but I had to go to the emergency room twice because I had breathing issues, and I had to go through all these tests. But even in the midst of all of that, the lesson is God is still good. And it taught me that because I'm the type of person, as I mentioned, because I'm solution minded, I'll still try to help you even when I'm in such a hard place myself. I'll still try to do it. But what God showed me and taught me through this, especially as a counselor, because I'm in the service, I'm in the human services field, so I'm in the human helping field. That's my life. That's my passion. That's what I do by profession and by calling and pastoring. That's what I do. But there are times when doing nothing for others allows God to do it for them. There are times doing nothing for others, number one, especially when you can't, it allows him to be able to meet the need. And then they'll look to him as the solution versus always coming to me or coming to you first. So those that love people, those of you that like to reach out and help people, there are times when certain things are just out of your range, out of your reach, and you just have to be okay with that. Maybe you just got to pray for them and offer an encouraging word and then let the Lord just work it out for them. So that was one of the things I learned. It's just life will go on, situations happen and progress even without me being involved in them. So after coming through this COVID for the past 30 days, people are still out. People are still that thought they needed me. They're still moving forward. They're still going on. So it proves to them too that even if I'm not around, they still can get the job done. And it proved to me I don't have to be around to get the job done. Does that make sense to anybody? So, um, so this is why I've dedicated my life to the ministry of mental health. We've been able to shift gears in our ministry because we want to help people because people are hurting. People are, eh, even though we have the mask on in society, and I think I just heard someone said we've taken the masks off, but there are masks that we still have on. There are masks, mask of fear, mask of avoidance, mask of pain, mask of trauma. And sometimes in the church, we've ignored them. You know, we haven't talked about the mask. We just preached around and preached over it. So Bridge Crosser Solutions, we've dedicated ourselves to the ministry, to the serving of mental health. What does that look like to help people through things? How to disciple people through challenges? How to let how to hold hand, how to walk people through to victory. Many times we don't understand how to do that. You know why? Because what we haven't given up or dealt with in our past holds us back for present opportunities. I was sharing with someone today, Dr. Flowers. We don't have an issue doing ministry. We know how to do things. I don't believe we lack know-how and we lack experience to do things. I believe a major part of the battle that we have as believers is that it's the battle in our mind that's stopping us from doing what we know to do. Because we know to do these things. And then you ever sit and ask yourself, why can't I do what I know to do? Why can't I can say what God said, but for some reason I just can't do it? Or why can't I progress? You know what? It's not because you don't have opportunity. It's not that there is no available time or space. I believe the battle that hinders us on why we can't do what we know begins here. And one of the things when I, as a pastor and as a counselor, when I talk to people and we have our sessions, it comes out that people have trauma. They have things they haven't dealt with. They have grief. They have things that have held them captive that they have not been able or haven't let go of. So what they haven't let go 10 years ago is impacted them in a negative way now. So it's not a void of not knowing what you're called to. It's how do I overcome what's here so I can put into play what I know to do. And so that's what we do here at Bridge Crosser Solutions. As a board certified pastoral counselor, I've been able to help people cross the bridges in their life, bridges of fear, bridges, and haven't been through a lot of things myself. So one of the greatest blessings of going through something is you're able to help others go through So from a place of empathy, from a place of concern and compassion, and from a place of authority and power. So I've been through a lot of things. One of the stories many of you know, when I used to stutter, uh, I used to stutter, and I was delivered from stuttering. I had to confront it. And you know how I confronted it? I confronted stuttering by doing the very thing that I was afraid to do. A person that stutters does not want to get in front of people. A person that stutters does not want to, especially strangers. And how I overcame stuttering is uh, I was able to get up on the buses when I grew up in New York and lived in New York. When I was called to ministry, I felt that to get up, I felt to get up in front of these strangers and begin to share the good news of Christ. And as I began to do that, number one, the self confidence came that I could do something that looked totally impossible to me, totally impossible. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So it started speaking to my mind. What I started doing in the natural, when I began to act out what was the hardest thing in my life, it began to start strengthening my ability to think like, you know what, I can do this. And the more I kept doing that, the more I kept getting up, praying for people on the 40 bus and on the 60 bus and on the train, preaching on the train. Next thing you know, I didn't stutter. So just from my experience of sharing that, uh, gives me the an authority to talk about how you really can be healed of things. Sometimes it's just through our obedience, it's through our confronting it. Sometimes it's just through confronting, not running anymore. One thing I was sharing with someone today about David. One of the things I love about David, that David was a man that ran two battles versus running from them. So one aspect of possibly being healed of things is maybe running to the battle rather than spending most of our walk or our journey in faith running from things. What if we ran to things in faith and in hope and love, and then see what God does in that? And like I said, I stuttered and I got up on the bus. I never forget, it was the 40 bus. And I got up on there and I began to share, and I felt something break off of me. I felt like a part of fear. I felt like something break. Like, wow, because once you do something once, if once you do it one time, there's no longer potential. And I begin to do that, and then it gave me a desire to say, if I could do it once, I could do this twice. I can get up here in front of these people and do it, you know, X amount of times. And I'm not saying it was easy each time, but but when I did it once, it created the desire to say, you know what, I can do this again. And as I begin to start doing that, I stuttered less. And next thing you know, I didn't stutter at all. And the next thing you know, I'm like, wow, I can get in front of people and speak. But I had to start. It was here. I already knew that I saw myself doing it, but how do I? Uh, I had to transition my actions and my mind. They had to merge. Like my mind and my actions had to become one. They had to cooperate together. So these are some of the things that we help people with here at Bridge Crossing Solutions. Um, we've started we jump started again our Let's Cross Together podcast, where we're going to be talking about mental health uh, from a Christian thought, from a Christian perspective, how to overcome things through the word. And let's be honest, a lot of times we hear sermons, we hear people say, just do it, and you need to do this, but sometimes it doesn't touch that area of our struggle. It's easy to tell somebody what to do, and it's another thing to help them to do it, to help them walk towards it, or walk or to overcome it. And that's what we're about here at Bridge Crossing Solutions. We want to help. We want to cross together. We want to cross together with you. I often say bridges were not created to be admired. Bridges were created to be crossed. And we are Bridge Crossing Solutions, and we want to help you cross together. Uh, so that's just a little talk of the journey with a little bit of information about the COVID and the journey with COVID, and just some other important information I believe can help inspire you and encourage you. No matter where you are, no matter what happens, one of the greatest powers God gives us is hope. the ability to believe against the odds, the ability to trust, the ability to still see light when they said darkness. Hope opens up the windows. Hope gives a different perspective. Hope renews insight. The hope God gives us hope. It's an expectancy. Hope is not wishing. Hope is a divine expectancy. I look forward to seeing what's going to happen in this. I look forward to the outcome in my favor. That's what hope is. It's the ability to believe against what you see. It's the God kind of hope. Like the world hope says, I wish it would happen. I wish it would rain, or I wish things were better. No, hope says I can see it. Hope says I can embrace it. Hope says hope attracts God to you. So in this season of your life, you may have been facing some hard things. That may not have been COVID, but they've had some powerful impacts. You can hope again. You can try again. You can believe again. And just want to encourage you to get your hope back. You know, as I was going through the COVID, I had to sit still. I was on my bed. I was praying. I couldn't do a lot. I just had hope. I kept hope alive. I know we generically say that sometimes, keep hope alive, but I had to just hope. I had to just have my expectancy in God. And that was my therapy, that this is not final. Hope is therapy. Hope heals. Hope encourages. Hope lifts. Hope renews. And so anyway, I appreciate all of you. As usual, share this video. This is how we change lives. Continue to tune into our Let's Cross Together podcast, where we're dedicated to the ministry of mental health. Remember, you don't have to sit there and struggle alone. You don't have to have crazy thoughts in your head and try to play it off. And no, if you're hurting, get help. If you're going through some things, call somebody. If you feel like your life doesn't matter, reach out to somebody. You're not alone. You know, sometimes people don't know what you're going through if you don't mention it. If you don't say anything, people sometimes they're not that in tune to just read your secrets or read your life at their house. You have to call. You have to initiate a conversation. Hey, I'm going through. I'm having these thoughts. Because you know what? It doesn't mean you don't have faith. It doesn't mean you don't trust God. It doesn't mean you're not a believer. What it does mean is you need help. That's all that says. I need help to where I am presently. So be encouraged today. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Cross Together podcast, the Ministry of Mental Health. Um, let me see here. Uh, let me put this here. Enjoy your rest of your day. Um, trust that you would do something fun today in the midst of everything. Thank God that He's merciful and He's kind towards us. Encourage somebody today. Somebody could use a word. Somebody could just be feeling down, and God wants to use you to help them. All right. So Pastor Fernando here. Let's cross together once again. Appreciate you. See you. I believe we're going to be coming on every Saturday. I believe we're going to be coming on every Saturday, maybe a little earlier, but I'll be posting some things. I'll be putting some things out. We're still perfecting it. Our office is done. Bridge Crossers Solutions office, Christian Counseling and Life Coaching Center. Everything is in there. All our furniture is in there. And so we're ready to start having clients there, or we're still doing telehealth, telecoaching, or telecounseling, whatever you want to call it. But we're accepting new clients now, and we want to help you just overcome the bridges in your life. So give us a call. Go to our site, bridgecrossers.com, and the information is there. There's forms to fill out, or you can reach out at 804-372-0100. Make an appointment, and we'll definitely call you back. Or you can DM or leave a message, and we'll get with you to let you know what we have available, what our services are. One of our main services I do want to promote is our emotional rescue, or our ER. You know, many times You know what? Let me say this. Years ago, I remember a person said to me, I spoke to them and they got encouraged and they said, you know what? I forgot what peace felt like. You know, sometimes we live so long without peace, without uh, hope within ourselves. And so the ER program that we have, it helps individuals restore their peace, joy and peace restoration, how to get your peace and how to get your joy back. And we help you overcome mental health barriers. We help you dismantle negative mindsets to really experience peace and joy again. You know, why live this life? Why go through everything and just never experience joy and peace? You know, working in ministry, but you don't have joy and peace. At the job, you don't have joy and peace. You don't have joy and peace in your marriage. So ER is really just about the emotional joy and peace rescue, emotional rescue, and we've called it the ER. That's one of our programs that has been successful in the past to help people really get their minds back. You know, sometimes people feel like, you know, I don't know about you, but I've been where I feel like I've lost my mind, but I still had to live and function and go to work. I didn't know what to do because I didn't have an outlet. I didn't have a place. I didn't have a program. I didn't have anyone to talk to be restored and to help me get myself back. So I'm coming from our programs are based on having been there. That's not we just making up things, but these programs are designed to help you. And I believe the our emotional rescue program can really be a benefit to so many people. So give us a call, reach out to us. Appreciate you. Until next time, peace.